everyone. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. I wear two hats today for this session. I am the General Manager for Level 3, which is an ecosystem in partnership with Unilever Foundry and Padang & Co. And I also, I'm also part of WOMAG. So I am the community lead for WOMAG for this year. And I'm super excited about this event. And I'll tell you why, because we were introduced to WOMAG from Level 3 point of view around last year, and we absolutely fell in love with them. And we're so proud that they're one of our ecosystem partners. And it's because they're equally passionate about creating strong and effective ecosystem, which is what we at Level 3 believe in. So one of the things that really resonates with us for WOMAG is their vision of creating a food and agriculture ecosystem whose leadership really reflects the gender diversity in the region. And that's very important because at Level 3 also, we are trying to create these safe spaces for being able to talk about diversity and inclusion. So the main aim of this event today is to actually start a very organic conversation that continues, not just for March, but going forward, not for a year, but just making this as a normal and as an everyday conversation to just not through our events and engagement, but also we would like to invite everybody to just connect with us, come talk to our members, both at Level 3 and WOMAG, to really continue the conversation about at the micro and macro level about diversity and inclusion and gender equality, and how do we all, not from just an organization's point of view, but from an individual point of view also play such an important part in making sure that these systematic changes happen, because these are some really huge changes and they will take time to take place, but we have to continue the conversation. So this is truly beyond a hashtag. So let's just continue with that. So with that, I won't take too much of time because we've got some fantastic panelists today. We've got Echo, who's the HR Director APAC for FMC Corporations. And we've got Tom, who's the Commercial Effectiveness Director Asia Pacific for Corteva AgriScience. And I'm very, very grateful to my dear friend Ping Ping, who's also an amazing founder for Smartport Village to, come and moderate the session. Over to you, Ping Ping.
Thank you, Uma. And like you, I'm also super excited for the conversation that awaits us today. So without further ado, we're going to dive straight into it. As shared by Uma, today we will be talking about agri, we'll be talking about tech, we'll also be talking about talent diversity and inclusion as topics for today. But before we dive into all of that, let's begin with something fun and lighthearted with our two panelists today. So Echo and Tom, either of you can go first. Tell us something about yourself and two of your favorite dishes in Singapore as we kick off today's session.
Sure, I can start, and I just feel that suddenly feels like Tom and Jerry story. So good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful day so far. So thank you very much, WOMAG, for having me on this panel. Highly appreciate it, and thank you, Ping Ping, and I look forward to the next 1 hour and so to share some of my personal experiences in this area. So I'm based in Singapore. I'm looking after the HR function for FMC in Asia Pacific, and I take care of the HR needs across the countries. So for us, I think why this topic is very resonant with me is really we are such a diverse and complex region, have 17 countries for us. So we run business in these countries and we have so many different languages, time zone from east to west, and food, right? So we have so many different foods. So Ping Ping, you just now asked us to share two favorite Singapore foods.
Yes.
The first one come to my mind is laksa. I really like laksa a lot. I know many people don't like the ham inside the seafood, right? I love it, and this is something. So I came from Shanghai, my hometown. This is something that has been forbidden in Shanghai for years. So it's good to be able to eat laksa in Singapore. And you know, if you go to food courts, you can always get good quality laksa with a very reasonable price. And in Shanghai, you pay twice and you don't get the same quality. It doesn't taste the same. My second dish, I don't know. I'm a fruit person, so it's not a dish, but I like any kind of tropical food. So I like durian, I like dragon fruits, all kinds of tropical foods. I can live on fruits. So that's a
Awesome.
little bit fun piece.
Awesome. Thank you, Echo. What about you, Tom? Tell us a bit about yourself and two of your favorite food dishes in Singapore.
Yeah. So first of all, also thank you for the invitation, and I'm looking forward to discuss with Echo and yourself. So I'm Belgian, and I live already 7 years in Singapore. Before I lived in France and UK, and originally from Belgium. So my role in Corteva is commercial effectiveness leader. So that means that I help and support the Asia Pacific organization in improving, redesigning business processes to kind of better serve our customers. So an example of that would be we use data analytics to kind of define and find out which products would we best combine and which markets could best be served by those products. So that's kind of what I do. On the food, it's a great question. I really love food. And again, it seems that Echo and I have some things in common, because laksa would also be the first thing that comes to mind. And I think the reason why is also it's kind of a mixture. You have so many influences in one dish. And I think having a discussion on inclusion and diversity, I think that would be a good illustration. And the other dish I really like in Singapore and would have often, not often, but from time to time as a breakfast, is the kaya toast with soft boiled eggs and a kopi.
Wow. Amazing. So now you're making us hungry, and thankfully after this it's dinner time. So let's dive straight into it. So yes, Tom, exactly like you shared, today's discussion is around, diversity and inclusion. And I thought that, to set the stage here for our audience also, perhaps share a little bit with us, what is one diversity and inclusion initiative that your organization has is championing, and secondly, how have you seen that evolve in this past pandemic year?
Yeah, so what I want to share, it's not really an initiative, but it's something that has led to a lot of initiatives.
Okay.
Because it's the clear commitment from our leadership is to kind of in the next 5 years to really move the needle on inclusion and diversion. So we want to move for 10% points over the next 5 years. So that's, we want to have a female representation of a minimum of 37%. And that's very top down. So it has really led to, there's no choice. This is our commitment. We've externally committed to it. This is what we want to do. And if we can do better, of course, we will do better. But it has led to kind of more risk taking, because this is not happening because you want it to happen. You have to do things. So we had to take more risks in the organization. So that in two aspects. So we kind of young female talent, we would give them more fast track development and kind of put them quicker kind of in a more responsible role. And also another risk we took is that typically in an agricultural industry, we tried, not we tried, but we kind of hired a lot of in industry and didn't really look outside. Now, if you're really forced with that kind of change you want to make and the intervention you want to make, it really helped us to kind of look externally as well and look at industries, not agriculture industries, but where we see similar competencies of capabilities that we found. So also there we took risks, and most cases that works out very well, and it really brings a lot to the organization. Sometimes it doesn't, but still it brings a lot to the organization. So that's really a major change. It's no longer kind of nice words. It's a kind of clear intent and a top-down commitment to make that change.
Sure. Thanks, Tom. What about you, Echo?
Sure, happy to share that. Actually, we have something similar. So in Asia Pacific, we've been talking about D&I, and I'll talk about that. So this is one of the key initiatives in Asia Pacific. But FMC last year, our CEO has announced a goal as well. So it seems all the CEOs think alike. We have a 2027 goal, which is 50-50. Meaning by the end of 2027, we will have 50% of male and female representation, really targeting at a good reflection of the external world we are working with. And certainly we are not there yet. And this is why the journey is so interesting, because it's challenging. In the region, we do have, so I will share it. So the goal is set by CEO and it's cascaded throughout the business. So it's like Tom shared, it's top down. But I think what's really important in D&I is not top down. It's not only top down, it's the bottom up and the middle management. So in the region, we have a very interesting or very powerful organization, and I'm leading this organization. It's called Asia Pacific Inclusion Council. And everybody on this council is based on volunteer basis. And as you can see, in majority of the organization, D&I, dedicated D&I person is either 1 person, 2 person, minimum 10 person. It's a very small group, but it's really the grassroots, the people who have passion come together and work on D&I. So in the region, we have this council and we focus on 5 areas. Gender equity is one of them. We also focus on LGBTQ spectrum. We focus on cross-cultural communication, and we work on intergeneration, and the 5th one is people with disability. So it's really a whole wheel of different areas we focus on to this council come together every quarter. And the council itself, the work stream, they meet very often every month to really look at in the region what we can do from ERG, from initiative, from campaign education awareness, from gender equity, how do we support the company to reach the goal? So that's a very important player in terms of D&I in FMC. Just now you also asked about COVID-19. So I do want to address that because I think COVID-19 has brought both challenges and opportunities for us. So one of the challenge, I think I've seen a lot of Choose to Challenge campaign in the last month. A lot of male leaders are posting on their LinkedIn, and they are either chopping potatoes or like hugging, like taking care of a baby, trying to challenge the status quo, like the where a female is taken care, like a C as a caretaker. So it is certainly something I've seen creating a lot of challenges for, especially for female during pandemic, because we were suddenly switched off from working in the office and work from home. And there are so many employees, especially female, who need to still work as a full-time employee. At the same time, they're full-time mom, full-time cooker, full-time helper. So in Singapore, we still have the helper system, which is very lucky, but I've seen in many other countries, this system is not available, and it certainly impacts and making a lot of female struggle. So I think this is the challenge, and I've seen some country like Japan, they even promote good father, strong father, this kind of concepts, really trying to ask male to step up and be comfortable talking about, hey, this is Friday, I need to cook for my family, or my son is taking a class, I cannot schedule a meeting at this time because I need to do such and such. The more male leaders do the role play, the role model, it will make the lower level and the middle management and female feel more comfortable. So I think this is an opportunity for us to address. The other one is, I think, also relevant to our industry. So with COVID-19, we've seen more and more utilization of digital, social media, etc. It is a big trend, and I do see this create unique opportunity for females, whether it's a female farmer or female distributor or female sales, where when things turn virtual, you have more flexibility. So I do look forward to the post-pandemic and see how the pandemic, some of the benefits we get from the pandemic can stay with us and help us with the diversity and D&I journey.
Thanks, Echo. I think you brought up some very exciting points, and I'm just going to dive into the first one, the opportunity that you mentioned has surfaced as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, right? And I would like to pose this to Tom. So one of the opportunities, as Echo mentioned, is, with this past 1 year of work from home, we have seen men taking on caregiver roles, being more expressive about home/family participation. And as a he for she champion yourself, what have been trends that you have noticed or practices that have been adopted within your company? And yeah, share with us a little bit more.
Yeah, so COVID, I expect it will have a kind of a long-lasting impact. So it has really broke, at least for me and for many of my colleagues, it has broken many mindsets and biases that we had. So of course, one was that kind of working from home that we didn't really expect that it would go so fluent, but actually it went very fluent, and could even say we became more productive and we could have a better work-life balance. And in that aspect, and also to Echo's point, work-life balance is not something that only benefits women, it's also very beneficial for men, and also having a good balance in your life, having time for your family, also makes you a better employee and a leader. So this is not something that is specifically benefiting to one gender. So, but coming back to the long-lasting effect. So as Corteva, we've decided that I'm surprised by the we are kind of and we called it Corteva Works. So we will evolve into a hybrid work system, where kind of all employees will have the option to kind of, from a couple of days to maybe 4 days, work from the office, depending on their jobs. Some jobs really you want to work more in the office, or at home it doesn't really fit. Best operate will be kind of aligned. So we will transform our offices. They will no longer be the traditional offices. We will be completely open concepts, really focused more on collaboration. And when you come, if I have to do work that is very independent and I don't need my colleagues, I can probably do that more productive from home. On the other hand, if I want to see my team, I want to do brainstorming, that's something where we all want to be together. So that's kind of a change that will be continuing, and we're kind of looking forward for that change in Corteva.
Awesome. Yeah, I think certainly this hybrid work systems is something that is, happening, I think, globally. Like even in Singapore itself today, the Business Times reported that sometime in April, the percentage of workforce going back to offices will be increased to 75%, right? So it will be interesting to see after, 1.5 years of everyone getting so comfortable working from home. I mean, I'm not at home today, but, to see how that is going to evolve in and of itself into the rest of this year. So I would like to now take a little bit of a segue because both of you are practitioners within the agriculture industry. And so from securing food security to ensuring a robust agricultural supply chain, the agri-industry is typically perceived to be traditional, perhaps old world, or even old school. But regardless, talents are still needed to operate the business. So maybe you could each share from your vantage point in the industry, what has been one conscious bias and what has been done within your organization to sort of like tackle that unconscious bias or conscious bias within your organization?
So I first want to reset a little bit your perception of the agricultural industry. So it's the oldest industry. It was kind of the first industry, and it's kind of everything started with agriculture, and that's how we kind of societies developed. So in that sense, you could say it's old, but it's so fundamental. And given the challenges we have today, it's a very dynamic industry. So it's going through its digital transformation. So a lot of things are happening. It's really science-based. And again, I'm also not coming from a pure ag background. I only for about 10 years in the agriculture industry, but it's very tech-based. So the biotechnology that goes behind it, the chemical development, and then the whole ecological evaluations linked to that, it's really a high-tech industry. Mm-hmm. So very dynamic and so I just also wanted to make the point why it's so important, because that industry, half of the farmers are female farmers. And these farmers, female farmers, they don't have the same access to kind of agricultural input or agri-technical education. And so they, as a result, they produce 30% less yield on their fields compared to male farmers. So if we can, as an industry, kind of really focus on these female farmers and these female smallholder farmers and kind of elevate that to the same level as male farmers, that's kind of 3 to 4% more food for the whole world. So that's kind of 100 to 150 million people that you can give reliable food supply, which currently they didn't have. So that's a very critical aspect. So coming to the bias question, so in our industry, we focus on two things. So that's the one thing is our employees that really work in the field and interact daily with farmers. There was a bias that was not a job for women, for various reasons. The first one was that, okay, they will not be able to kind of convince the farmers that or teach to the farmers how to do certain farm practices, but that's a kind of an invalid assumption, knowing that half of the farmers are female. So actually they could be better placed.
Exactly.
And they can work with farmers. So that's kind of one element. Another element was also linked to, and again, there are certainly some elements there, and that's what we want to address too. It's also about it's the working at remote locations. It's about access to hygiene, so that's not so obvious. So that's where we want to specifically help our safety and security. So we want to make sure that they feel safe when they visit these remote areas, and they're always going with a buddy and things like that. So that's one area. And the other area is senior leadership progression of women. So also there was kind of women really grew fast, but then at the mid-career level, you see they kind of more men kind of grow to the senior position. So there's also kind of some bias why this is not happening. Some of the bias, I think, is also from the women's perspective itself, because they kind of feel, oh, that will not be for me. And I had that experience. I had once when I was working in manufacturing, a female engineer, very strong and very promising. And I wanted to talk to her, look, you are the next plant manager. But she said, no, that's not for me. I can't do that as a woman. But why? There's no reason. So it has two elements. So that's why what we do to kind of counter that is creating these networks, mentoring relationships, coaching to the younger employees to kind of help them for themselves convince, yes, they can do that. The women will address maybe things in a different way, but it could be even more relevant at certain situations. So there's no reason that it's not because it's a different way that it's a less effective way. So bringing these networks and coaching, mentoring is a key step to help that aspect.
Thank you, Tom. What about you, Echo? What have been some unconscious bias that you have noticed from your vantage point within the ecosystem?
Yeah.
And what do you feel could be done?
Sure. I think Tom addressed some of the very common, I won't say it's an unconscious bias. It's actually, it's somewhat true, but it's a traditional. So when we talk about in certain countries, the work is not seen as attractive to female. It's from both sides. It's not a culture where our farmers and distributors deal with female employees. They don't see a lot of female in the field. Of course, they don't think this is a work for female. Then on the other side, who are not in this industry yet, there are a lot of female. They see this job as not very friendly to female. I have heard the comment around, oh, you spend a lot of time under the sun and your skin will be so tan, which is not very welcome in Asian culture. So I think there are a lot of perceptions related to agriculture. But it is something definitely changing with some of the players in this industry started to work on diversity. So, so we started to see more and more females, and we so very consciously as a company, I think both Cultivar and FMC, we are consciously starting to show commercials with female employees, commercial with female farmers. It's really building the image of, hey, this is a job and this is a reflection of reality. Looking at Indonesia, a country like Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, there are so many female farmers and decision makers. They are all the real contributor to the business. So we do need to build this not only the company, but really the industry branding that this is an industry that there are a lot of players who are female. The other unconscious bias I do see, which is kind of related to job opportunities and career development is, I'm not saying, again, Asia Pacific is huge. It's not everywhere, but in some countries where the culture is very traditional, male leaders, because it's dominated by male leader, there is a perception or bias around, you know what, females, they don't want to go to the field. They don't want to visit the farmers. They don't ask the female employee, and they assume they don't want to go. So they try to give them back office opportunity. At the same time, the females think, my manager don't want to develop me. I don't have the equal opportunity to, for example, if I'm working in R&D and regulatory, if I don't see how the experiment is carrying out in a field, how can I know the product? So the female will feel, I'm not being treated equally. And the manager is thinking, I'm thinking from you because you don't want to go. So I think we do need to really proactively talk about this and have an open conversation. Another bias is really around, you know, the life cycle of female. They always say, oh, you graduated, you work for a few years, then you get married, then you will stop working, you will focus on family, or you started to have young children, then you will start to focus on family. So definitely culture is different. Every country is different. There are a lot of unconscious bias. In terms of what we are doing, this is, so in terms of the hiring and education side, it is a longer strategy. We are doing both short-term actions and long-term actions. Short-term side, we do work very closely in the region, different country with agriculture universities to do the talks, to let them know what FMC is doing, and also invite female leaders to let them see, hey, you can be successful in FMC. And also we have internship programs, we have management trainee programs where it's like Tom said, it's a fast track, very focused development where rotate people. It's both female and male, but definitely we are looking at how can we bring in equal percentage of candidates for those programs. In the longer term, we are also realizing that some of the culture is not shifting overnight. It takes generation. So some of the education to the farmer, and the education is really around, we have a concept of, it's not in Asia, but in Asia we have something similar, we call D&I champion. And D&I champion is not from HR, not from office, people. They go to the field, they go to the farmer, and they do all of these kind of road shows, and they are talking about D&I. They talk about the importance of providing education, equal education to both male and female, and they really encourage the female, the daughters, the husband, the fathers attending the session, making sure their daughters get opportunity to get education, and after they graduate, do not get married immediately. So there are a lot of long-term education need to be done. Last thing I want to maybe address in terms of unconscious bias is also around a dedicated talent review process where we not only looking at the key talent, high potential employee in the organization. In FMC, we also have a dedicated diverse talent review. So we review deeper down in the organization, the female talent, and also people with color in US. So it's not only female, but it's a diverse talent review where the underrepresented talent are discussed in front of the leadership.
Wow, that is several initiatives that is being undertaken within FMC itself. But I think one point that stood out from both of your insights is this notion of role modeling. Because earlier, Echo, you had mentioned about, job opportunities and their perception bias. So I wonder from the perspective of role modeling, how do you see that could be better implemented or further expanded upon as we look at building a pipeline of female leaders into each of your organizations?
I can start. I'm quite proud that in the region, I don't know whether our president is there. I think she's there. So in the region, our AP leadership team, it's 50-50. So we have already achieved the gender goal. And it's so that's very good role modeling. We have a lot of great female leaders in the region, and they are very inspirational. This is very important. We also have a hashtag tagline in our company called "See Yourself and Be Yourself" in FMC. This is our DNI tagline. It's very important. It's only when you see people like you can have a seat in the leadership team, you will be able to see yourself successful. So again, back to the talent pipeline, and I think there are some structural processes we need to look into and really be proactive. We talk about females saying no to opportunity a lot. Just this morning, I was reading an article, and majority of female only apply for a job when they are overqualified. So again, this is some knowledge we have. How can we encourage female to say yes to opportunity, or raise their hand, or ask for opportunity? So that's something we keep doing. Mentoring, coaching definitely is very important. The other thing is about knowing who are there, get to know their career aspiration, their interest. And once you know them, it's easier for you to pick them out. And then when there are opportunity, you can consider them.
Wow. Thank you, Echo. What about you, Tom, on this point of role modeling?
Yeah, on the point of role modeling, it's I mean, we ask the sales field organization to hire more women. So I think that the first step, if we do that, we should show that we do that ourselves as well. And we also take different approaches so that's why if we hire, we would kind of really take the effort to, even if it takes much longer, we want a kind of a balanced representation of men and women to be interviewed. So that's kind of, and coming back to this intervention that we will do to clearly show that top down, we kind of, we do what we say. And that's also why we kind of encourage you and have the role model to encourage overall in the organization to go through the same process and consciously do these interventions and go out of your way to do, even if it takes you a few months more, we don't care, but it's important that we take the time for it. It's really a priority and it's important. So that's one. The other thing is similar as Echo. So we would also make sure that we have luckily several successful women within Corteva, and they are really the advocates for that change. So we would really make sure that we form networks with them, that they can share how they overcame problems and things like that, and how they deal with work-life balance and the challenges they had and how they overcome. So for example, also today we had a session with our ASEAN female commercial business leader, who kind of presented to the wider organization kind of her challenges and how she kind of was successful. And then there was questions and answers from a broad audience. And that was something that is also, we have a network, it's Women Inclusion Network, WIN, and they kind of organize with a regular frequency these interactions, just to kind of give that inspiration to our new and new young female talent that they can aspire for much more.
Yeah, I think with that, we actually have an interesting question from the Q&A panel. So posted, the question is, Corteva and FMC are huge organizations with articulated commitments to D&I. And so in the process of pipeline building, how would each of you say organizations can encourage senior leadership or HR to have formal policies, protections or commitments around this? What are your thoughts?
Well, if it's top down, it's top down. It's very clear. This is for us. If I would I add people to my team and I would not go through that. First of all, I want to go through the process. I'm very convinced that by doing that, I make my team much more competent and performant. So that's not a problem. But there is that expectation that is very clear that as Corteva, we believe that a diverse organization will be more performant. If you look at, we are a global company, and if you look at agriculture and farming in the world, there's so much differences, and farmers are so diverse all over the world. If we want to serve farmers, we have to, and they're so diverse, we can only do that with a strong and diverse organization that has that kind of insight, and we can look and think from different angles, from a strength by diversity. So it's really an expectation, but also, yeah, we succeeded in convincing everybody that yes, this is the way we want to go. Because again, coming back to the female farmers, if we can help female farmers, we can help a lot of food security in the world. This is something very significant. So, and the only way we can help female farmers is also by being ourselves a more diverse organization. So it's going very natural from one end, but at the same time, it's also a very clear leadership commitment, and not more than a commitment. It's kind of something we.
It has clear commercial implications, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Echo,
yeah.
what about you? What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I think from HR perspective, that's a very relevant question, because we do set up policies, we do provide guidelines, and this is very important. And I look at so I will probably talk from employees' life cycle, because D&I need to be embedded into all the policies related to, from hiring to onboarding, to performance management, to reward and recognition, talent review, et cetera. So as Tom has already shared, I think we both, our company, we have very clear policy around a diverse candidate slate. This is clearly stated in our hiring recruitment process. Even when we work with recruitment agency, this is a requirement to them. If they are not able to bring in diverse candidates, we are not going to use them. So they need to promise to bring in diverse candidates. And of course, our interview panel need to be diverse. It's not just one gender. It also includes people from, for example, at least you need to have someone representing the minority in the panelist to bring a different perspective. Then in terms of performance management, I'll tell you, we just closed 2020. We do a lot of performance review, calibration, a lot of fun doing that. And as part of that, we look at demographic information. So we do look at the performance review breakdown by male and female, and try to see, is there any differences? Is there any trends? Are we having unconscious bias through the performance management process, as well as the merit cycle? When we come to merit recommendation, is there any differences when it comes to male and female? We just want to make sure it's equal, it is fair, and the gender does not play a role in terms of the recommendation. In terms of, so there's also global initiatives going on from last year. We are doing a pay parity analysis. Last year, we started from US, and this year we will go to global, and very soon we'll look into countries like India, China, and I look forward to the results. There are some assumptions, and I hope the result is telling us a positive story, because I'm very confident that we do have policy, the pay structure in place, which is not influenced by gender. So I look forward to the survey, but that's something we are doing to try to find out if there's any bias in terms of pay. What else? So I think there are a lot of structural in the process and the policies to ensure that gender. I mean, the office is not a virtual background, and the light is off. So I think definitely HR and the company itself plays a role in terms of setting up rules. including probably can also share a little bit around benefits. We are also looking into global benefit in different countries. It's a huge project. Global CNB is looking at, and we started to look at is there areas we are giving different benefits. Again, it's not just for male and female. Are we giving different benefits to employee representing LGBTQ? Are we introducing local domestic partner concept, so people from spectrum, their partner can enjoy the same benefit as the normal, like from a couple, married couple. And from benefit side, you know, a lot of companies, they have different benefits for citizens, for foreigners, and we are just trying to look at, and from equity perspective, trying to bring equal treatment to everyone, whether you are foreigner or local employee, you should have the same benefits in this company. So a lot of things going on. I think this is an area where HR plays a role together with the business.
Yeah, I think so. In terms of like this, like you shared with us, you know, Echo, like a wide spectrum of policies. So we actually have another question with regards to policies. So the question is, what is the process like in each of your organization when someone would want to formally bring instances of discrimination to light? For example, being overlooked for a promotion or inappropriate comments, consistent pay gaps, etc. What is the process like in each of your organizations?
I can certainly answer that, but and I will come back to it, but I just wanted to add one additional element to the commitment of the company, because we spoke a lot about our employees and the commitments to have kind of equality in employees, but we also extended these commitments externally. And that means that, for example, from the supply side, we also have a commitment that we want to work with minority suppliers, and the same principles would apply when we look at our supplier base, and also kind of help unrepresented ethnic groups in the US that have companies, things like that. And similarly, then from the customer end, we also have a commitment that we will develop and work specifically with ethnic minority groups in the US, for example, but also obviously also in the other regions. But so that commitment on equality and inclusion and diversity is obviously focused on the employees, but now also we go one step further, and that's the external part of it, going to the suppliers and to the customers, and having very specific commitments on these as well. So coming back to the question, and I think probably Echo will be able to answer that in a very concise way, because these are established HR procedures where kind of, if there is a complaint, then an independent committee would have a look at that and facilitated by HR, and then a position would be taken. So that's also very much structured as an HR process.
Thank you, Tom. Echo, what would be some advice or insights that you could share with us in terms of be it better managing the process, or supercharging that process should such instances be brought to light?
Yeah, I think it's similar. So most of the company have such a hotline. So same for us, we have the speak up culture, and we have a hotline for email address for you to anonymously write to if they find ethic problem, or they find unequal treatment, etc., etc. So I think that's a policy or process side. But I do want to highlight that there is also opportunity for people to be straightforward and bring the concern to the manager. They should try this. I know it's not easy. In a lot of cases, people feel, why I'm being treated unequally. Maybe there's a value for you to be open and to talk about it in front of your manager. If people find challenges, they can talk to their mentor, talk to their network, and find out what is the best way. I always believe in transparency, and what you will find out may be surprising. Maybe you will get what you want, or maybe it's an overlook, or at least you provide a feedback to the manager directly if you find there's an unequal treatment.
Awesome. Thank you, Echo. On this topic of feedback, we have another question, and this is perhaps for Tom. So the question is, in view of the ambitious targets that Corteva has in increasing the number of women leaders in the companies, has there been any negative feedback from male employees in terms of advocating for these ambitious targets? And if yes, how should one address those?
Yeah, so I've not seen them. I think it's probably a natural question to think why that could happen. And I've also not directly seen it by myself. And the reason is, I think because we all kind of really believe we want to be a successful company. The only way to be a successful company is if we are kind of a balanced, diverse, and a company with inclusion. So I think we're all convinced by that. And we clearly see objectively that there is currently a gap. So we are all very comfortable to help to close that gap and to find the ways how we can help to balance that the organization. And also as male leaders, we also see that the ways we would a little bit change the organization, for example, with the work from home and some of the flexibility, it also benefits male leaders. This is also helping us to be better parents, to be better balanced, and of course, then another element for me as a personal point of view, I have a daughter, so I also want for her that she has equal access to successful companies. So I think most of the men have daughters or have a wife or a mother, so I don't think it's difficult to relate to that.
Awesome. I hope that answers the participants' question. We have another one on this topic of gender equality. So the question is to both our panelists: how does Corteva and FMC ensure that you respond to the many different identities women have, rather than creating policies that work for all women? So for example, women who are LGBTQ, women who are non-majority race, women with visible and the invisible disabilities, they will all have unique and different challenges from each other. So please share with us a little bit on how your organization would respond to these many different identities that women have.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think we are in March and we are talking about International Women's Day, Women History Month, but definitely it's much, much broader. So as I shared, D&I is such a broader topic. Even the Inclusion Council I shared, it's not covering all. It's also about people, different background, different way of solving problems, and different personality, etc. So I will address this question not from policy side, because policy won't be able to solve the problem. It is the human who is solving the problem or addressing and creating an inclusive culture. So what we are really focusing on is, yes, we have the strategy. Yes, we have the number, we have the targets. Now it's really, let's empower the frontline leaders and give them the tools, knowledge, and the skills to address this. This is where I'm very optimistic again, because COVID-19 certainly brought a lot of challenges. And it's the line between your professional life and your personal life become very blurred now. And we've seen this is an area where female is very strong. So female leader has a natural like a curiosity, taking attention, caring about the employees' well-being, listening to employees' needs. We see this as a specific strength from female leader, and this is so much needed during pandemic. So yeah, I'm a bit diverse, but I do see this as an opportunity to for us as an organization to revisit what competency do we need from employee and leaders under the new post-pandemic work environment. How can we help the company to be successful? Being a successful leader does not only need technical knowledge. Most of the time, it's more around leadership, bring people together and have engaged workforce. So I think that's what we are trying to address, running inclusive leadership programs, giving frontline leaders the tools, knowledge, and the skills for them to act in an inclusive way. That will help a lot for them to address the different needs from different employees, not only women. There are so many different combinations from minorities. So listen, be curious, and really be empathetic and flexible to different needs. So I also want to highlight, we talk about female, we talk about LGBTQ, etc. We also have a lot of employees live by themselves during pandemic, so they don't have people to talk to. So on the other hand, we have female and the male talking about workload, family burden. We also have another group who does not have family member with them, so they also have their specific need. It's only the frontline leaders when they have the skill to be more inclusive, they will be able to handle any kind of employee.
Thank you, Echo. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, so the risk, of course, with a company like ours that is kind of global and structured is that we always look for solutions and policies and top down. And of course, that's an essential condition, I think, that you have that strong top down commitment, but as such, it will not work. So we really have to work much broader than that. And then it's, I also like Echo mentioned, it's about trainings. We have kind of rolled out last year unconscious bias training for all the employees. It's also about creating networks. We have networks around women, networks around ethnic minority groups, and they are staffed, of course, with people from that minority group. But in addition, we also want senior leaders to sponsor these work groups. We want other employees that want to help them also be part of these work groups. And then also and that's something that's a little bit new in our organization. So in the US this summer with some of the ethnic issues, and there have been quite some challenges linked to racism. And so then the company has really started to install listening sessions. So leadership, starting from the top, has really started to kind of really take time in very long and open discussions with employees to get that feedback. And so that was also cascaded down. So I've also done my listening session, other colleagues, and you're really surprised that by taking the time and listening to concerns of employees, the things you learn, and then of course also take it into you and try to kind of address it. So by those 3 steps, so kind of broad training and the importance of inclusion and the unconscious bias, then forming these networks, and then also by having these listening sessions, which are really two-way and kind of bottom-up processes to kind of have the same outcome.
Yeah, that it is a dialogue and not just a monologue, right? When you know the leaders also like hop in and have listening sessions. So I hope that answers that participant's question. We have another question that's very interesting, and that comes from Herlina from Indonesia. And so she has shared that fortunately she is working in the field for the agriculture industry. And she would like to ask the question about diversity and inclusion in the field, especially for female workers, because she sees that there is some bias about D&I there, especially for women empowerment out in the field. So she has 2 questions. The first one, what kind of strategy or steps would each of you suggest to boost the confidence level for female workers out in the field? And the second question is, with regards to some of the bias around D&I perceptions, what kind of actions can make it clearer to all people and not just women, but also men, to sort of circumvent those bias around diversity and inclusion?
Ping, can you repeat the second question again?
So the second question is, there seems to be some bias about D&I perceptions. Would you be able to suggest 1 or 2 actions to make it clearer to all people, and not just women, but also men, on what we can do to circumvent the D&I bias perceptions? That is the second.
I will address that based on my perception of this question. Second question, it's very well written, complex English. So the first one, I think this is something just now Tom and I myself, we have shared. So in the field, certainly we should and will continue to do more, but there are activities about providing dedicated education and resources to female farmers. For example, in our Philippines, we have some work done with the female farmers to provide education to them, to help them to practice best practice of how to better grow the crops and make them self-sufficient. So we can have we can have better yield from the field and also better utilization of the product. We understand in some of the culture, when training is provided, maybe it's not provided equally to male and female. So sometimes we are providing dedicated resources to female farmer. That naturally address the second question. I think the question probably is, I interpret it as this way. Basically, it's asking, we are talking about D&I, and there are bias around D&I is about female. So I think, so use the example I use, it's because historically and on a day-to-day, female has been a minority, and they do not have equal access to opportunities, educations, training programs in the field. That is why sometimes we do create programs dedicated to female. It's not discrimination to the other gender, it's just bring equity here. So I hope I interpret the question correctly and answer it.
Awesome. Tom, what about you?
Yeah, so I would love to kind of hear some suggestions from Helena, but in that format we can't do that because as we discussed, we are really trying to do things, and it's clear that certainly in field roles we are not yet there, and there's still a lot of work to do. So we try to do it as we discussed, through role modeling, through specific training, through empowerment, through networks. But I would certainly love to hear if from people that are really feeling that every day, what they believe are things we can do, and any suggestions that we can still improve the way we deal with it, because it's something that we really want to solve. And the people really involved are probably that can come up with the best suggestions on how we can do that. So
then
I can suggest in the chat, then I'm certainly interested to hear about that.
Then I would certainly suggest to Herlina, who's listening to this, you should LinkedIn connect with Tom. And I'm sure he would be more than happy to, you know, take this conversation further with you, Herlina. And actually, just out of curiosity, as we dive a little bit deeper onto this question, right? Tom, earlier you mentioned that if we were to be able to empower the female farmers, we can actually increase food production by 3 to 4%. Thereby, you know, contributing more food supply to almost 100 and 150 million people around the world. So with regards to this empowerment of female founders, female farmers, and is there a particular geographic region that has seen the greatest success in the recent time that you could share with us? And then in addition to that, what were the 1 or 2 things that you believe contributed to that success in this recent time?
Yeah, so first, it's really a huge opportunity. So if we can address that gap and really help the female farmers and their communities, that's really significant. So that's why also in our programs we try to focus and address and with specific training and with specific programs female farmers. So this is happening all over Asia Pacific. So we have projects in Indonesia, we have projects in India, in China, and also, for example, the project that we have in Indonesia is one also where because this is not something we can do on our own as one single company. So it's really, we also look for partners to kind of together work on these challenges. So in Indonesia, we have a partnership with Prisma, which is a collaboration between Australian government and the Indonesian government. And they specifically focus on helping female farmers by kind of teaching them new and modern farming techniques. And I think that initiative is already kind of ongoing for several years, and they have like very impressive yield improvements into the range of doubling the yield and the outcome. So kind of really transforming villages just by training the female farmers. So that just shows that this is kind of the way to go, and it's something that we try to continue and also look and work together with partners to achieve that. So
that's awesome. Echo, what about from FMC? Has there been any recent success stories out from the field in terms of, you know, be it increasing yield or increasing the empowerment of the female farmers, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I think the success story I want to share about the macro system. So it's not about having everything done within the company. It is about your upstream and downstream. So we have been, for example, in Australia, we are working with our actually customer, and we form a program and to do the mentoring. So it's our customer, Nutrient in Australia, and we do select some senior leader from FMC and do like an exchange program. So there are mentees from the vendor, from our customer, and they put together a program where we can provide mentorship to them. At the same time, we also benefit from the learning from their feedback. So I do think this is much bigger project for the whole industry, all the players, big players, small players, farmers, entrepreneurs to come together and address it. There's huge opportunity for us. I would say we are not doing it enough. Definitely a lot to do in the next few years.
Awesome. We have another new question for our panelists. What recommendations would you have for smaller companies that may not have well-organized HR policies to improve this equality or gender equality between men and women? Any advice for smaller companies?
It's great. Yeah, be clear that and really work with the employees to show that diverse companies will have better results. There's plenty of studies that show that. And also, if you're in a market, I mean, consumers are diverse and inclusive. So if you want to be successful as a company in the market, you need to kind of be able to bring the right products to the market. And you can only do that from a diverse and inclusive context. So it's just business survival, and that's the way you will be the best company and the market if you can achieve that.
Thank you, Tom. What about you, Echo?
I think a lot of policy questions here. I just feel many policies. Again, D&I, yes, policy, structure, process can help, but eventually, what is D&I? D&I is a behavior. D&I is a culture, which is, if you have policy in place, but you don't have the culture change, you don't have the behavior change, it's not going to achieve. So to the listener who raised this question, congratulations. You are in a smaller scale SME company where you have a lot of flexibility. So do the right thing and create a culture. I think creating the culture is the most important thing. When you make a decision, some very simple practice is remove the gender and see whether you will make the same decision to this talent. So some small, I'm happy to share more, but there are a lot of tools available for you to check your unconscious bias. So in a smaller company, you do have more flexibility and you are closer to the top leadership, or maybe you are the top leadership. So listening to this session, maybe we'll be able to influence your decision.
Awesome. I'm also mindful of the time, and but before we all go away, I thought we will have one more question for each of our panelists. What would be the one thing that you are personally excited by or would like to embark on more as you champion D&I or a he for she leadership initiative?
I go ahead. Yeah, I think so different from Tom, who is an expert in this industry for decades. I am still new in agriculture business. So there are a lot of learning for me. I need to really still talk to more female employees in this industry, really to understand what are the challenges, what are the barriers, whether it's working in this industry or whether it's thriving, growing in this industry. So a lot of listening, a lot of exploring I need to do and learn. The other very specific action I will take is also probably something everyone, if you, again, it's an article I read a couple of days ago. They were talking about male and female, the level of confidence. How interesting you will be able to see at a younger age, male started with a very high level of confidence, and the female confidence level is slowly built up, and after maybe mid-age, 40, 50, after family, etc. So it's like a curve slowly build up, and the male start from there, and they stay at a certain level. So I do see this this is an interesting implication where, you know, for a lot of us, male and female, you are at that level, and we do have a lot of young female, their confidence level is still building up. So be proactive and look into your network, your organization. Look out for those female with potential, female who wants to grow, or even female who even didn't realize they have potential. Reach out, build relationship. I'm not a big champion of formal mentoring, but I do believe in network and relationship. Have conversation, understand their needs, understand their barriers, and try to build those connections. So that will be my very specific action.
Thank you, Echo. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, from my end, so in my role, I have a lot of kind of projects that I manage, and it's a really great opportunity for kind of developing talent or external talent to kind of learn and develop. So it's a great opportunity for me to have that little bit mentoring that young talent, be it female or male, and then try to help them to make the next steps in the company.
Awesome. So we have heard through the diverse conversation today, we have heard about having cognitive diversity at the table, mentorship, coaching, and role modeling. And I would strongly recommend all of our attendees to LinkedIn Connect with both of our very esteemed panelists, especially if you have more follow-up questions. It's been a pleasure, and I will tee it over to Upma.
Thank you so much. What an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough, Echo and Tom and Ping Ping, for the session today. And to everybody who's attending this evening, thank you so much for spending your time with us. Just a very quick note, WOMAG is a volunteer-led organization. So if you are interested in joining us or finding out more, please feel free to connect with me or my colleagues and just drop us an email. We would be sending you the follow-up email after the session. So if you have any more questions or you would want to connect with anybody, please just drop us an email over here. And yeah, on that note, thank you so much. And we hope to see you again for our new events. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ping Ping.
Thank you all.